All right, Andy, take us away. What are we doing today?
All right, we are looking at an article this week. It is titled KCPD Officer Memorial Vandalized by Anti-Law Enforcement Demonstrators. Interesting choice of words for demonstrators. What do you think? Should I read the whole article here?
Yeah, go ahead and kick it off.
All right. Demonstrators vandalized the entrance to Kansas City, Missouri's police department headquarters and a police memorial to officers who died in the line of duty Friday night downtown. Obscenities were spray painted across the doors and on the base of the statue dedicated to slain officers during the fourth hour of a protest in opposition to Operation Legend, a Department of Justice initiative to involve federal agents in violent crime investigations in KCMO.
That is kind of weird because this is from KSHB,
Yeah.
and they do say demonstrators. Like there's been like this national cover up of what used to be called like I don't know, rioting, vandalism, other
Or at least acts of
terms,
vandalism.
instead of just demonstrators, because a demonstration. Then what's a demonstration? Is a riot a demonstration? Because they're just demonstrating they're angry. Right, I'd be like, I do find that odd because this is not like this isn't a liberal source. Or this isn't like a left-leaning source. I don't think.
No,
I don't think that we have really any local stations that are like. I don't know.
Super
I
left-leaning?
never get that anyway from them.
I don't think
So
so.
it is very odd. It seems, and I'm guessing it's intentional that they use
I
demonstrators.
think so. I don't think they want to come out and say rioters or any sort of escalation and other than like protesters.
I know that's just a different point, but I did want to say something about that because it is very weird.
So, and when you're memorializing people that died in duty or in the course of duty, it's weird because I don't get it. I don't understand vandalizing stuff anyhow. I can understand if there is an outrage and immediately something happens, but 50 days from that outrage, we're still vandalizing stuff and moving to abolish police. What they mean by that, because that's kind of what the article's about. So when you look at the picture on it, if you're listening to this, and I'll throw up a picture up on the video podcast. But if you're listening, it says ABOL KCPD, and a really cool looking blue. Actually, I dig the blue, so they did a good job on color choice.
The color choice is good.
But like, I don't like the fact that abolish KCPD. It also ties into Operation Legend. If people aren't familiar with, it's Trump's. He created pretty much two task force to help cramp down on rising crime rates in states. And Legend is one that's coming to Kansas City, and so they also put Feds Go Home.
Oh, and that's based on what was his name? Was his name Legend Telefario?
Yeah,
Is that,
it was a
I don't
4-year-old that
want to
was
mispronounce
I
it
think he was 4 years old, got shot and killed.
Yeah.
No, it says no room for fascists, and I don't understand that. I mean,
Well, keep going. It also says Feds Go Home, which it's funny to me because it's like, if you guys weren't vandalizing stuff or hurting anyone, the feds would go home.
Well, it's like, does crime come first or the police?
Yeah, it's like you go out and kill people and you put a note on them. Hey, police, you guys need abolished. Or something. It's like, wait a minute. I think the reason they're there is because you keep breaking the law.
well, and if you can go deeper into that too, you have President Bush to blame for this, President Obama to blame for this because he never got rid of the Patriot Act. It's probably one of the worst things of his entire presidency is not abolishing the Patriot Act and keeping it going. And when you look at that, it's allowing Trump to do this. It's allowing him to create Antifa or these parties as terrorists, and then he could do whatever the hell he wants because that's the rules of the Patriot Act. It's like each president seems to be going down more and more a more tyrannical line. That's kind of what Jesse and I were talking about on Wednesday. Is like eventually we're gonna have to stop, or it's just gonna keep getting worse because each president is biting off more and more power. And if you think Biden's gonna be any different, you're completely wrong. Whether he wants to abolish police or not, I mean, there's been some fake articles saying that he wants to. I don't think it's ever been confirmed that he actually said that. But this is in Kansas City, so this isn't like a huge metro area. It's definitely a metro, but It's not like the Portland, Oregon. I mean, this is a wide-reaching thing that's got some movement to it.
We already do have high crime and homicide rates, though, compared to a lot of other cities. Definitely compared to Portland, which
didn't used to.
is surprising. Huh.
It's up like 40%.
What do you mean? You mean like didn't used to? You mean like
Compared to last
20
year?
years ago, or you mean like in the last 10 years?
Just
'Cause
comparative.
They used to be like in like the top 10 for quite a few years in terms of homicides. I wish
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it, or I would have looked at the statistics. I used to know them, but I think it's been quieter more recently,
Yeah.
Not this year.
but not certainly not this year.
Well, East St. Louis has been like number 2
Yeah.
forever, but some of your worst ones are obviously going to be Chicago. That's
New York.
top of the line. New York. Some of the cities in California have some high crime rates. Seattle has a high crime rate. There's a lot of Detroit is way up there.
Yeah, I was thinking Stockton, California was getting on that list.
There's a lot of crime rates that do and don't make sense, but like now it's getting out of control is because when you talk about taking away police officers and you talk about taking away deterrence, anytime you take away a deterrent from a society, it leads to more rebelliousness and people breaking the law.
I feel like a lot of people don't understand that. They think that if the police go away, the crime goes away. And again, which comes first, the crime or the police? And the crime does.
I think because there was some kind of question, and AOC was asked something like, "What does it look like if you defund the police?" And she said something like, "It looks like a suburb." Right.
Oh yeah, she did say that.
And
which is
the
nuts.
problem with that that idea is that suburbs are suburbs because I mean they typically are much more safe, and that's why there's not a ton of police there necessarily cracking down on everything. If you just remove the police in some of the most dangerous areas, then you're just going to get more poor people hurt. So you got to lower the crime rates before you could reduce the police presence.
I love her
Yeah.
though.
Right?
It makes me feel like I can be in office someday. Because she says some stuff that like it.
Well, you got to go through the natural progression. You need to become a bartender and then become a representative.
That's such a good thing, though. I was talking to Chris about this the other night. I'm actually proud that we have somebody like AOC in the Senate.
Yeah, I think that's great.
I'm sorry, in the House of Representatives. We need people like her. And you don't have to agree with what she says. She's just one person, but the fact that she was a bartender and has a degree in economics, she's not a lawyer. That's awesome.
I think that
good for her.
she definitely comes from a great line. Like bartender, normal person, and now she's in office.
I thought that was Monica.
But I feel like, I think I've heard some people talk about her changing ever since she got into office, and she's kind of getting more bought out.
But the more people you get in like her, the more we stop reading politicians. That's what's scary. So let's get back to the article. Why don't you read...
Was there anything really more to it? Is there
well,
something else that's...
The organizers.
The organized demands and whatnot. I think we should
Yeah.
definitely dump into
Oh
that.
yeah, let's get into if there's demands. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
That was fun.
I'm sure it's very intelligent.
Apparently, some of the protesters, rioters, demonstrators were arrested. If anyone was,
We naturally call them
curious.
rioters. It's just when you start vandalizing stuff, you come into that territory of rioting. I mean,
You're not protesting at that point. So the organizers, rioters, called for defunding the KCPD by 50% and then investing that money into housing, healthcare, education. That's the high level demand that they have from this article.
well, and we could break that down a little bit. When you talk about here's a problem. And Joe Rogan had that one naval officer that does training on his podcast, and he hit some really good points that we learned in criminology. Was when you do less training with police officers like we do now, like the actual training they get, it's really bad. And if you look at their mental training and like the way they train for drills, it's not good at all. They do a lot of range training, but you're talking about defunding the police. The police are just going to get worse. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we need to incentivize people to become police officers, to make it a job that's not gonna you're not worrying about your career every time that you walk out the door. Not career, I shouldn't say career, but like
Your life.
well, I mean, but I also have different feelings on that. I mean, you sign up to be a police officer, you know what the risks that come with that.
But I think if you don't feel prepared in your job, you're going to make more mistakes. Your mentality is just going to be different.
Yeah.
Especially in those high stress situations where you have 2.2 seconds to make a decision while you're on it.
Well,
Pumped on adrenaline.
That's just it. We were watching a video today of they call her Karen, which I just love that term. It cracks me up. And she had called the police, I think, on a Hispanic couple, and dude, you just could tell she was a bad actor, and they could tell the police were kind of wishy-washy with her because there was a reported gunshot. They're like, "Well, did you shoot the gun?" She's like, "No, I didn't shoot the gun." Well, they end up searching her, and in the bag, they're like, "Well, you have bullets, but you have no gun." And they're like, "Oh, what is this? What is this?" I think it was like methamphetamine or crack, or it could have been marijuana. I don't know. There's some drug paraphernalia, and she ends up as the police officer goes to put her arm behind her back, she pulls the gun out of her front and like discharges it, and they pop her, and then
Wow.
good on. I mean, here's the thing is, dude, I don't understand that. I don't understand why people pull weapons on police and don't think that you're gonna get shot. I don't think they killed her; they just wounded her.
Well, that's good.
But yeah,
Good she didn't die.
well, she was running away, yeah. But it was crazy because you're talking about the 2 seconds. I think that situation went from 0 to like here, and the police officer did a good job. There's 3 body cams, so you can watch like 3 different angles of it, and it's crazy because if the guy's like, "Don't be stupid," she pulls the gun out of her hand. She's like, "Don't be stupid," and that's there. I mean, I don't think a lot of officers' first instinct is to like murder people.
No, definitely not.
I don't think police officers wake up in the morning and they're like, "I think I'm going to kill someone today." I don't think that's what's going on.
Some do.
I was just
I'm
looking
sure.
up. I was just looking
Yeah,
up
with
the
anything.
budget. So KCPD, the total budget for the city, I guess, is 1.7 billion, and the KCPD gets 273 million, which is 16%. I don't know what average is. It's just so they're wanting to cut that basically in half. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and that's just and another thing that really irritates me. SROs are so important, and that's a student resource officer. They're so important in schools. And the basic reason is because a lot of them develop really good relationships with kids, but it also teaches kids to you don't have to respect authority because I don't think it's really an American thing, but it teaches them to coexist with authority. I don't think you should ever just 100% bow toe to authority because that shit doesn't get done that way. But you gotta coexist with authority and realize when there's a boundary and when there's not a boundary. And
Right.
but you have those student resource officers, and a lot of them are there building relationships. I did my internship. I spent a couple days with one, and you're just building relationships with those kids in the school, and they come to you with household issues like domestic disputes or domestic violence from parents. They get that more than they would a teacher, and it's really interesting how that works. So I'm a big fan of not taking student resource officers out of school because I think they're a huge help. So
I think whoever's participating in this activity, feel like they really don't understand the full extent of what that means. Like to cut police funding, that just sounds sexy and it sounds great. Oh yeah, we're gonna fight for this just cause, whatever that means to them. But they don't. When you step back and take a look at how that really impacts everything, I don't think that's even crossing their minds at all. They're just in the here and the now. Let's vandalize some stuff. I'm sure a lot of them didn't even know what they were vandalizing. They just knew it was a statue or a memorial. Just went for it.
or why those officers even died. Another thing that's scary too is you start thinking about, oh, let's put it into housing. Well, no one talks about stuff that's already going on, like opportunity zones, which I was talking about earlier. It's where people invest their money and it has to stay there for like 10 years, and they build projects. North Kansas City has a lot of new buildings going up because it's an opportunity zone to help some of these low-income areas with affordable housing. And so the government's already doing stuff like that. We're already dumping a lot of money into these areas. And I don't think robbing Peter to pay Paul and creating more of an unstable area is going to fix anything that they're talking about. And I think there's been a lot of good people speaking up against it, but I think there's a lot of bad actors too.
I also did think that these people don't realize too, if the crime goes up, the people don't want to invest in those areas. So you're creating those devastation in those areas for years and years to come. And that's what's happening. And I mean, not even here, not just here, but other countries too, or other cities that are being devastated by riots as well.
So, the article says an unknown number of officers suffered minor injuries, while one protester was hurt while running away when they tripped and fell.
It seems unrelated.
It's just kind of funny.
I'm glad they got that detail for us.
Well, I think it's probably good because at least it shows that, it was the person who hurt themselves.
Yeah.
So even the one person that was hurt, they weren't hurt by the police. Mm-hmm. So I mean, maybe they could still try to blame them somehow.
Yeah.
And see, they only moved people away after they started vandalizing the police department. So, once you turn into vandalist and you start tearing down shit and you start destroying people's property, I don't feel sorry for you at that point. Mm-hmm. Exit the premises, exit stage right.
Yeah.
Hold your hand like you're playing paintball. Hold your hands up like you just got shot in paintball. Be like, listen, I'm not with these guys. I'm just a peaceful protester. Like I'm not rioting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is, it's like you do have a lot of good people in there that are protesting for whatever they feel is right, which is what America's about. And then, unfortunately, you have individuals who take it on themselves to deface stuff.
Yeah, I think that turning to that, like when you turn from true peaceful protesting to rioting, vandalism, violence, I think that kind of discredits you a little bit because you're not respectful of other things. So why should we listen to your, solutions? And I don't know.
It's just not very smart either. I mean, like let's say you want to get the public on your side, the best way to do it is to do it in a peaceful manner that's respectable, and you'll get people's attention. I mean, people keep coming out there. The media will still cover you. But as soon as you start rioting, looting, more and more people are going to turn away from your cause and whatever. I mean, and I think it starts to dilute the cause anyway.
Yeah.
Like when all this stuff started with around George Floyd, it's like I totally understand this, totally on board with the protest, no problem. And then you get into the rioting and looting, and then you get people defending just my basic friends who vote Democrat defending the rioting and looting. And then trying to lie to me about what Martin Luther King thought about it. It just gets crazy too quick. And
this public defender guy.
Oh, I do.
Oh my goodness! Yet NYPD officers grabbed protesters' backpacks and stole and broke their bicycles. They probably confiscated it and it's probably at the police department when you go pick it back up. That's second-degree robbery, a Class C felony, mandatory sentencing of 3.5 years. Oh, you want to talk about mandatory sentencing? Let's talk about Joe Biden's mandatory sentencing with the 1994 Crime Act that he loves to take credit for. Mandatory sentencing is garbage. It is complete garbage, and it is the reason why our penitentiaries are stuffed with minorities and overly so because they get plea bargains and they'll take a plea. Either they'll take a small sentence for a plea on some stupid drug charge or stuff like this. So, but I don't think that, and so pretty much what he was saying on this, so they're still on the force and they just get overtime. They're not stealing people's book bags. They are, and yes, there are bad actors that push old men down, never should push the old man down. They attack people when they probably shouldn't. They're definitely bad actors, but overwhelmingly, they're only getting involved in the mix when usually there's people burning shit down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, and then there's weird stories on the other side too of the people that stood in Portland of the, veterans that stood in front of all the protesters.
Were they actually veterans?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's veterans in Portland? No, I'm just joking.
Because I don't know. I think there are some actor groups that they claim to be something, but they're really not. I don't know.
You mean like the nurses that were out there?
No.
Like during the other protests? That's why that was so funny. Like, because, I mean, when the other protests were going on, which was just like a few days of almost nothing, of just, sure, were a lot of the people white? Okay. And some of them were militias, fine. There was no violence. There was nothing that happened, but they were just destroyed in the media, right?
Which protest?
The lockdown protest.
Okay.
Right. So then you had those nurses out there, and they were doing these full cover stories, of these nurses with their arms crossed out there, because these people weren't wearing masks, and saying how they were going to be hurt if whatever. And then when these protests go on, and these protests cover the whole country, I'm guessing by a factor of 100 times the amount of people, nothing. That's how you know everything is bullshit. That's when it goes down to it. That's when you know everything is just bullshit.
It's hyperbolic.
I mean,
Very hyperbolic. It's very, it's election year. And
Inconsistent.
I'm just, hey, listen, you want to go out there and protest in the streets? Please do. But just don't, if you see somebody tagging something, why would you let them do it? If this is your cause, and this is just kind of my personality, but I'd be like, hey, why are you tagging that building? First, graffiti kind of sucks. It only looks good if it's done like in a specific area that's like, you know, okay, all the businesses get along together. It's like, hey guys, we're gonna pay people to come here and do murals and some graffiti work, and that's the kind of vibe of the area. It doesn't look good when it's just randomly thrown around and it's real crappy.
Yeah.
Like, that's not very good lettering.
No.
At least if you're gonna abandon it, or at least you're gonna do it, do some good lettering on the statue. You know, use a good color palette, but you didn't use good lettering. But it was about 150 people that was protesting, and then, you know, it's probably just a few people that are turning violent, but then that mob mentality sets in, dude, and people see it, and then the officers get involved, which makes protesters turn into more violent people, because then they get involved with the officers, because there's that mix there.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a bad situation.
Yeah.
I don't know why they just don't stop the bad actors. So, but now that's in Kansas City, so we'll see, you know, what happens in Portland.
Should we touch on Operation Legend a little bit?
Yeah. Go ahead.
what are we at on time?
We're good.
Yeah. Yeah, so they were protesting Operation Legend, which, again, I think it's kind of misled the protesters, because they just know feds are coming in and feel like they don't really know why. But it was set up to crack down on some of the unsolved, like, homicides. You guys might have to jump in. And some of the, like, unsolved crimes, which, I mean, is needed. We have 40% increases in homicides this year, so
It's like over 40, something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, we need help in solving these, and need help prosecuting those ones that are doing it. Otherwise, they're just going to keep doing it. And so I know there's been the family of the little boy who died. They're in support of this operation coming in, because they want the crime solved. And I don't think the protesters listen to that family and
I think it's
it's all about.
Well, it's very political. It's very I mean, because I think I don't know. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but it feels like they feel if they are in support of any kind of help federally, it helps Trump's case, and it makes Trump look good. But it also doesn't go along with the message of defunding the police. It's increasing a police presence.
Exactly.
And so it's kind of like a touchy subject. But the problem is, what people don't realize, the federal agents have more capabilities of running better backgrounds. They have better resources. And so they have better trained officers that are specifically trained in some of these things. So when they put those task force together, you're hyper focusing on one situation, and that's why the crime rates tend to go down in those areas. KCPD's had a bunch of time to get this under control, and they haven't.
I read some stories, because originally they were talking about in Portland. They were saying, "Oh, these federal agents that weren't identifying themselves. Supposedly, they have their.
It's hard to see.
They have the police badge on them. They also don't have their names on them, because I guess they're keeping their names off them, because they were doxing these people. So they keep their names off them, but they do have their badge numbers. So
they're identifying.
I don't know. That's what I'm hearing, that they are actually identifying themselves, that they do have the proper stuff on, but they do not have their names on them, specifically because of the doxing.
Yeah, and again, it sucks that we're even at that point. They have every right to defend a federal building, push people away from the federal building.
Yeah, and it's all about that courthouse, like in Portland specifically.
It's just stupid. We don't need to get to this point in society. You think cooler heads would prevail and realize, hey, listen, our crime rate's going up, so we need to. Why? It's not legal-abiding citizen murdering people all the time. There's crimes of passion, but usually when it's really high rates in crime rates, it's usually a criminal factor that they haven't got their hand on yet, and sometimes it's a multi-state factor. Could be a thing with Chicago, or and that's when the feds get involved and they start putting it together. It's just not the small fish; it's the bigger fish that they're going after, and you start to realize, okay, so they're getting their stuff from here to here. And secondly, if you just it could be, if we had some criminal justice reform once in a while, and these two parties are not going to give it to you, you probably start to see a decline in those rates too, because we are manufacturing criminals in this country. We are, and that's the sad thing. You let these riots go on, and you keep. It's like I feel like we're in Rome right now, and we're having festivals, and everybody's focused on this. Why Caesar's taking over the Senate?
Oh, jeez.
Somebody's gonna stab in the back, maybe.
I feel like that's a good topic for probably. We could definitely go into that in a whole nother session. Oops.
Yeah, so good. All right, well, that's what we got for this section right here. This session on defunding the police and what they want to do here in Kansas City, and it's kind of the same thing everywhere else. So, you want to add anything, guys? Good
No,
to
I
go?
think that's it.
Yeah.
All right, talk to you guys soon.